We are on the page 18, section 7.6. We say, this class we only learn one thing, which is what? Solving quadratic equation, right? Finally, we are here. We have been learning what? Breaking things down. So let's see, how can the breaking things down will help us solving an equation. So let's find out what are quadratic equations first. We say quadratic equations are what? In the form of this. It's an equation, so you have equal sign, right? For quadratic equations, it means the polynomials with x squared in there. So we will have ax squared, right? Second degree polynomial. Then we say equals 0. We call this quadratic equation. If for a, if a is 0, would that be a quadratic equation? This one is gone. You don't have a quadratic equation anymore. You will only have what? A linear equation. That's in your 152A class, right? So a cannot be 0. Then a, b, c are what? Real numbers. That's what we are working with. Take a look. Can b be 0? If b is 0, what do you have? For example, you have, say, 3x squared plus, say, plus 3 is 0. Say minus 3. Okay? Is this a quadratic equation? What's your a? 3. What's your b? 0. A is 3, b is 0. What's your c? -3. Is this a quadratic equation? Yes. Because what? You have x squared there. As long as for x you have square, we call it what? Quadratic equation. If you have this way, say 3x squared equals 0. Is this quadratic equation? What's your a? 3. What's your b? 0. What's your c? Still 0. Yes. As long as you have square for x, it is quadratic equation. So the coefficient cannot be 0. Okay? Or if you have this situation, 3x squared, right, plus 3x equals 0 equation, right? So what's your a? 3. What is your b? 3. What's your c? 0. Is this a quadratic equation? Yes. As long as you have square there, it is. Only the requirement restriction is what? A cannot be 0. Okay? So, let's take a look. What we are saying is, if I have ax squared plus bx plus c, right? Second degree polynomial. It's a second degree poly, right? Then your a cannot be 0, so it's a second degree. Right? As long as the second degree polynomial, a cannot be 0. And if that's called second degree polynomial, and if we say make this one is what? Equals 0, become an equation, then we call this one what? A quadratic equation. That's what we are talking about. A quadratic equation. And for a quadratic equation, what do we try to do? We say, we are going to solve it, right? Then see what kind of skills we have learned can help us solving equation. For math, we want to solve problems. So what do? We always learn what? First, you will learn the basic skills. Like add, subtract, multiply, and divide, and simplifying, right? Also, for factoring, we learn the basic skills. Then, second step, we will do what? Solve equations. We learn the skills. Then, we will learn how to solve problems. That will be your what? Word problems. Right? You will translate the English words to an equation, then you solve it with your basic skills. Then, ideally, we learn all those capabilities so we can solve what? The world problems. That would be the idea. Then, that's what we do in science field. The process, thinking process, that's what we do to solve problems. Okay? So let's see some examples how we actually do that. If you look at the part B, if I have x minus 3, x plus 1 equals 0. Right? Do I have quadratic equations? When you multiply out, FOIL out, you actually get a quadratic equation. However, let's take a look. If I have 5 times 3, okay, let's do 5 times 0. What do I have? 0, right? 0 times 5, it would be what? 0. 0 times 0 would be what? 0. However, if I have 3 times 5, that would be what? 15. Not a 0. So, if you want to get a 0, right? You have to have what? One of the numbers or both are zeros to be able to do that. If both are not 0, you will not get 0 here. Is that right? So, the idea is what? If I have a situation like this, that means 2 parts. Each smaller part, one of them has to be 0 to be able to multiply together to be 0, right? We call it what? Zero product property. So we use this. So what do we have? X minus 3 equals 0 or x plus 1 equals 0, right? It turns out each one is what? Linear equation. You add a 3 each side. That will be your answer. That's how you solve equations. If we have this one, okay, if I have x squared minus 3 minus 2x minus 3 equals 0. What kind of things we call this? Second degree polynomial with equal sign. That means what? We have a quadratic equation. However, we cannot solve directly. What do? We break down to the smaller part. So leading coefficient is 1. I can just break down by factoring x and x. Which two numbers multiplied together is negative 3, added together is negative 2. So you will do negative 3 plus 1 equals 0, right? Then you break down to the smaller part from the higher degrees to the lower degrees. Then for each one, that would be what? you use zero product property, just like there, and you will find the answer this way. That's how we break down things from higher order to the lower orders to be able to solve problems, to make situation problems simpler and simpler until we can resolve it, right? Let's look at the number 2. 5x minus 2 equals 0, right? What does this x mean? So it's one part itself. So you have two things multiplied together, factored form. So each one, it has to be what? 0, right? You often forget. This is one part. As long as you have x, that would be the part you will have to take care of it. So this one is 0. For linear equation, what do? Plus 2. So 5x is what? 2. Then your x will be what? 2/5. That's how you resolve it. Are we good? Get the idea? Right? What are we doing? Solving quadratic equations. By doing what? Breaking down, factoring to a smaller unit. Then you can resolve it. Look at the number 3. Do we have equation? Do we have a quadratic equation? Yes. How many terms do we have here now? 3 terms. Trinomial. If it's trinomial, can you break down? With which method? We say AC method. But the leading coefficient is 1. I can just write it directly with x and x, right? Which two numbers multiplied together is -22, added together is -9. That would be 2 and 11, right? 2 and 11 multiplied is 22. So it will be 2 and 11. But you have to decide the sign. To add it together is -9, so you will be +2 and -11. Did we break down to the factoring form? Factor form, right? So then you use zero product property. So each individual one need to be 0. Then you have linear equations. Then you will resolve it by doing this way. So that will be your answer. Right? Then take a look at the next one on your page 19. 4x squared minus 20x equals. What's the difference between this question and early on the question we practiced? Will equals 0, right? So we can break down and we can resolve it. But this one is not. Let's write down the steps, write down our thinking, how we actually solving the quadratic equation. So on your previous page, page 18, there are steps, right? So we always do what? We will write the equation in what kind of form? Standard form, right? So we say, what is a quadratic equation? Standard form is what? Second degree polynomial equals 0. So move everything to one side, another side is a 0, right? Then what do? you do that, you will break it down to the smaller unit. So you will factor this quadratic equation. All right, not a factoring quadratic equation, only this portion. That will be what we call a quadratic expression. Completely. What do we mean by completely? Means what? 2 primes. Right? Then once you break down to the smaller units, like this, then what? We were using what? By zero product property, right? We will do what? Set each factor, okay, containing a variable equals 0. Like this one has variable, then you will set it to 0. If you have something outside, you can ignore it because you can divide it by 4, right? Then number, we are not going to solve it. Number is a number. We are solving the x. Then next step, we will do what? Solve x. Then last step, you will do the checking, right? So, how should we start this one? We should write it in standard form, right? So you will have 4x plus 28x plus 49, right? Quadratic equation. How many terms we have? 3 terms. Trinomial. Then how should we break down? We should use what? AC method. So your AC is what? 4 times 49, which is big number, right? 36, 196. Then your B is negative 28. So you need to figure out how to actually break down. It's not that straightforward. So one way to do it is what? Take a look, 196. 196 is what? You do your tree, 4 times 49. That's where we get it, right? So 2 times 2 times 7 times 7. Do your trees. Then we need to separate these to 2 parts. When we add it together, it will be what? Negative 28. Can you see it? Not the 49 and 4, you cannot make 28. So if I use this 2 7, then I use this 2 7, that would be 14 and 14, right? So if I do negative 14 and 14, negative 14, I can make 196. And together will be negative 28. Remember how to do your AC method? After you find these 2 numbers, you should break down the middle term to these 2 terms. You just found it, right? Then you carry down those, right? Then you do grouping. Then you factor it, do the GCF. That would be 2x can go into x, can go into both, 2 can go into both. So we have left is 2x minus 7. Then for this one, you have 7 you take out. But the leading one is negative, so you do negative here. So the inside will be positive, to start with positive, right? Minus 7. If you do that, take a look. You have 2 groups. Then you have same thing here and same thing here, right? Then what? You factor the quadratic expression completely to all the primes, right? Then what do? You by zero product property. So this one is 0. Then by zero product property, we will set what? Each one is 0. Just happen they are the same. Then you solve this one. So 2x is 7, right? And x is what? 7 halves. Then this is the same. So that will be your answer. So far, sometimes we have what? 2 answers. This case, we only have one answer. If you have a second degree polynomial and solve it equals 0, you have an answer up to 2. Okay? Let's look at the next problem. We say, what should we do to solve a quadratic equation? How should we start? First step, write the equation in standard form. So how do we do that? You distribute 2x squared minus 7x equals 4. Then standard form means equals 0. Right? Then we have a trinomial and equation, quadratic equation, right? Then what do? For trinomial, you use AC method. You have to do it yourself, okay? If you cannot do the factoring the trinomial AC method, you don't make it, okay? You need to practice to make sure you get it and go back and practice again. So we break down to a smaller unit. Then we use what? Zero product property, set each one to be 0. Right? Then you move linear equation, you move 1 away, right? So your 2x is what? -1, your x is what? -half. And this one, your x is 4. So you have 2 answers. Then you can plug in and check as well. Right? So you will write the equation in standard form first, then you break it down to the smaller units, to primes, right? Then for each individual, you set it to 0 by zero product property. Then you solve individually, then you also check. Right? Are we good? Let's look at the next one. This is now quadratic equation, right? Because the leading coefficient is not the leading coefficient. The highest power is what? 3, not the square. However, we say to solve an equation, we need to break down to the smallest units, right? So how do you break down? Remember, you need to do what first? The GCF. So you do GCF. Oh, not only x, you also have 3, right? So you have what? X squared minus 4, right? Did you break down to the lowest units? Primes? Not yet, because x squared minus 4. How many terms we have? 2. It is what? A binomial. To break down the binomial further, what should we do? Use formulas. The difference of 2 squares, so we should have what? X plus 2, x minus 2. That's 3x. So how many parts we have here? We actually have what? X cubed. We have 3 parts. Then we will set each part to be 0, right? By 0 product properties. Then you divide by 3. So x is what? 0. And this one x is what? -2. This one x is what? 2. So you have 3 answers. You can plug in and check. It will work. Are we okay? Right? Let's look the next one. This one part, simplest, because it's a linear. This part is what? A trinomial. Then we use AC method. Then we should be able to break down. Okay? So you do it yourself. So this one should be what? Okay, this one should be x plus 6 and 2x plus 3. You do AC method, x times 2x, 2x squared, 6 times 3, 18. The middle part, 6 times 2, 12, plus 3, that would be 15. So that's correct, right? Then you have 3 parts. So each part by 0 product property, each part can be 0. So you solve individually, that's x equals 1/5, or this one would be x equals what? -6, or this one can be what? -3/2. That would be your answer. Three terms, right? But is this a quadratic equation? Is this a quadratic equation? Not really. It's cube. But still, we can break it down, right? How should we start? We should always start from what? GCF, which is what? 2 can go in an x, right? What's left? That would be x squared minus what? 2x minus 15, right? Trinomial. Leading coefficient is 1, so we can just do x. Which two number will work for -15 and -2? That would be -5 plus 3. Is that right? So that's 2x equals 0. So we have how many parts? 3 parts. So by 0 product property, this can be 0, x minus 5 can be 0, x plus 3 can be 0, right? So divided by 2, x is 2, or this one, x can be 5, or this one, x can be -3, right? It's better for you to use blank notes than practice on it to make sure you actually get it, not just by listening. You need to have hands-on. Let's look at some apps. Word problem. We are on the page 20. Take a look at the first one. It says the square of a number minus twice the number is 63. Find the number. Right? How many numbers? we are going to find the D number. So just one number, right? So it says the square of a number minus twice the number is 63. For the things we don't know, we use what? X, right? We are going to find X. Then we identify things we need to find first. Then what do? We write the equations. Then it says the square of a number. So you square this number, right? Then minus twice the number. So twice the number is what? The number, take a twice. Then you minus it is what? 63. That's how you write your equation. Then third step, you will solve it. Right? What kind of equations we have? Quadratic equation, but not a standard form. So you need to write in standard form. You will have 2x minus 63 equals 0, right? Then trinomial. Leading coefficient is 1. You can just do that. Then which two number will work, right? Negative 9 and 7. Then you resolve it. So x is 9 or x is negative 7. But then doesn't mean we have two answers for the numbers we need. Actually, is this one or this one. Either answer will work. Okay? Two of numbers will work, but we are just finding a number for it. Let's look next one. Okay, it says the length of a rectangle is 5 feet more than its width. The area of rectangle is 176 square feet. Find the length and the width of the rectangle. So, for your class, we can only solve one variable, right? So, we need to do what? First, identify things needed, right? With how many variables? With just one variable, because you can only solve one variable right now. That's what you have been learning. So, at the same time, we might be able to do a picture, right? Because it's rectangle shape, so you do a rectangle. Then follow the situation. It says what? The length is 5 feet more than its width. So we can only use one variable. How about the things we don't know, we use x, right? But I can just use w for my width. Can I do that? Right? So my width will be what? W. And it says the length is 5 feet more than its width. So what's your length? 5 feet more. It means what? More means plus, right? So that will be your length. That's how we identify things we needed. With just one variable. Then second step, you need to write the equation. Look, another situation, it says what? The area of the rectangle is 176 square feet. What is area? Area is what? Length times width. So length times width should be what? 176. So we write our equation. Then third step, we will resolve it, right? How should we do that? First, For quadratic equation, we need to do what? Write in standard form. So you FOIL them out, right? Then standard form, everything is on one side. Another side is what? 0. Which two numbers will work? It's not that obvious. So you need the leading coefficient is 1. So you can just say WW, right? 0. You need to find out. How do you find out? It's not that obvious. So what do? Just a breakdown. Do the tree, right? That would be 88, 244, 222, 211, right? That means 176 is what? 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, 11. We want to make positive 5. Got any idea how can we split this become 2 parts? One is positive, one is negative, because this one is negative, right? So 2 parts you can make happen, add together is 5. How about we just do this part? 2, 2, 2, 2 is what? 16 and 11, right? If I make this positive, my negative, will that work? That will work. That's how you break down to figure out which 2 numbers will work. Right? So we factor it, use our skills on factoring to solve the quadratic equation, right? So W equals -6, oops, yes, W equals 11. What is W? Go back to look again. W is your width. And what was the question? Find the length and the width, right? Can width be negative? No. So this one would be your extraneous for the question, right? Can we use 11? Yes. 11 what? Dollars? Goats? You have to figure out what's the unit of measurement. Take a look. It's width by what? Feet. Do we answer the question? What was the question? Find the length and the width. So this one will be your what? Width. Then what is your length? What do you think? It says what? Length is 5 feet more. So your length will be at 5. That would be 16 feet. That would be your length. Good? Third problem. It says an object is dropped from the roof of a 144 foot tall building. Okay? So somebody is there. Try to drop the water balloon on you, right? Neglecting air resistance, the height h in feet of the object above the ground after t seconds is given by the quadratic equation. H equals plus 144, right? It says find how long it takes for the object to hit the ground. So if it's water balloon, when it will hit the ground when you pass by, right? What are they talking about? Did they tell you what? You know this is what? Some kind of equation. So then let's go back to the question again. It says the height, right? Of the object, the height of the object, that's your water balloon, above ground after t second is given by the equation. We don't really know what it's talking about. So let's just follow through, do some analysis, See what happened according to what do they say. It says the height is above the ground by h after t second. So at least you know you have t something the minute or seconds, right? This is your height by what? The feet, right? So this is a second. Let's just take a look. And when t is 0, you plug in t is 0. What's your height? 144. That means at the beginning of time, the ball is here, above the ground, 144 feet, right? What happened after 1? So you plug in 1, negative 16 plus that, 128. What does that mean? It means after a second, the ball is here, which is what? Above the ground, 128 feet, right? When you plug in 2, after the second, 2 seconds, right? You plug in 2 to 4, negative 64, that would be 80. What does that mean? It means first second, second, right? Then it's above the ground, 80 feet. Then let's plug in 3, then it ends up what? 0. What does that mean? After 3 seconds, right? After 2 seconds, you are here. After 3 seconds, you will be on the ground. So to answer the question, it says, find out how long it takes the object to hit the ground. That would be your 3 seconds. That's by the analysis, so we kind of understand how it works. But how do we do it mathematically? It says, find how long it takes. That means you need to do what? Find the t, right? To find the object after t second to hit the ground. Hit the ground means what's your height? Find the t when h is what? 0. That's what it is saying. We need to find the t. So you plug in this. 0 equals what? Negative square plus 144. Right? Do we have a quadratic equation? Second power of the variable, right? How do we solve it? Move everything to the left-hand side. Write it in standard form. Right? So you have 16t squared minus 144 equals 0. Quadratic equation. How do we solve the quadratic equation? We have standard form now. Then we need to break down. For binomial, right? We can break down by formula. However, to make it easier, what should we do? We should take out the GCF always. Would that work? Right. Right, my 1060. Are we done breaking things down? We can do it further. It's a perfect square, right? The difference of 2 squares. Then 16 cannot be 0, so never mind, you can just divide it, ignore. Then you have this. Oh, 1 is minus. That means your t can be what? Negative 3, t can be 3. Can we use t equals negative 3? Can we go back in time? Not really. So t is 3. So to answer the question, it means what? After 3 seconds, the water balloon will hit the ground. Got idea? Most of you, we will not emphasize on this kind of practice, but if you do physics and later on in pre-calculus, you will use those kind of things. Let's look at number 4. We are on the page 21. Okay, number 4, it says, the product of two consecutive integers is 420. Find the two integers, right? What does consecutive mean? It means what? One after the other, right? If I have a 7 consecutive number, continuous, next number will be what? 8, next number will be what? 9, right? If my first number is -7, what's the next number? Following on the right, so that will be -6, and so on, right? That's called consecutive number. One more add to it, right? So if first one is x, what do you think your next number will be? X plus 1. Next number will be what? X plus 2. Is that right? Okay, so what was the question for the problem? Find the two integers which are consecutive and the product of them is 420. What does product mean? It means what? Multiplying, right? So same thing as we have been doing. We say first you identify things needed with how many variables? With one variable, right? So for the things we don't know, we use what? X. Since they are consecutive, means the next number is what? X plus 1, right? So we identify things we need. Then what? Second one, we write our equation. It says the product of these two numbers. Product means multiplication, right? Together should be what? 420. Do we have a quadratic equation? Not in a standard form, right? Then we will make it as a standard form. So that will be x squared plus x equals 420. Then write everything on the left-hand side. X squared plus x minus 420 is 0, right? Then first we write the equation, then we solve it, right? How do we solve quadratic equation? Find the two numbers. Which two number will work? Let's do the trees. I know I have 20. Oh yeah, I find it already. But if you don't find it, I have 2. That would be 210, right? 2, 105, 3, 35, 5, 7. Is that right? So my 420 can be what? 2 times 2 times 3 times 5 times 7. And I need to split it to two groups. If I group this 2 to 3 for 12 and 35. 12 and 35, I will now make 1. This coefficient is 1, right? However, if I do this and 5, 2 to 5, that would be what? 20. If I do 3 and 7, that would be 21. Since this is a negative, then I can make 1 is a positive, 1 is a negative. Then I add them together. I can find the one I need, right? So that would be what? Plus 21 minus 20. It means what? Your x can be negative 21 or x equals 20, right? Is that answer 20 and negative 21? Not really. Look at the question. They are two consecutive numbers. So it means what? For this one, the consecutive first one is 21. Next one will be what? 20. Oh, negative 20, right? That's a pair consecutive number. When you multiply together, they become what? It becomes 420, right? Then this 120, next number would be what? 21. So this pair would be 20 and 21 consecutive numbers, integers. And multiply, when you multiply them together, they are what? 420, right? So you might have one of those questions on your exam and final. So you need to practice them. Okay, next one. Find the two consecutive R integers whose product is 23 more than their sum. Two consecutive R integers. What kind of numbers are integers? So if I have 15 to start, next number will be what? 17, next number will be what? 19, right? If I start from negative 15, right? Next number will be what? Not negative 17. It should be what? Negative 13 and so on, right? If I start from X, consecutive R integers. So from one to the other, how much difference they have? You add how many, what kind of number? It would be 2 more. So you should have X plus 2, X plus 4, and so on. Is that right? Even 2, 4, 6 are even number, but since you start off with R number, you add 2, 4, you still end up what? End up with R numbers, right? So first step, we identify things needed with one variable to resolve the problem, right? It says 2 numbers we need. How many numbers we need? 2, but with one variable. So you need 2 numbers, x and x2. Then the second one, you write your equation. It says, whose product is 23 more than their sum? So when the sum, when you add it together, what is your sum? Means addition, right? What is your product? Means this, right? You multiply together. Then it says what? Which one is bigger? It says product is 23 more than the sum. So you need to add the sum becomes what? The product, right? So the product is more than sum by 23. We have a quadratic equation, not in a standard form, so we make happen to solve it. So that will be what? X squared plus 2x. And you simplify each side first. Combine like terms, 2x plus 25. Right? Then write it in standard form. Move everything to one side. Right? So what do we have? X squared minus 25 is 0. Do we have a quadratic equation in a standard form? Yes. How many terms we have? 2. Binomial. How can we break down? Use a formula, right? So difference of 2 squared, that would be this one, right? So this one, x is what? Negative 5, x is 5. Are they the pair we are looking for? 5 and negative 5? Not really, because they are not consecutive integers. So for this one, the pair would be what? Is -5 to start, and next number is what? +2. A pair is -5 and -3. Consecutive are integer. Right? Then for this one, a pair would be what? From 5, you will get what? 7. That would be another pair. Actually, you have 2 sets of answers, which will satisfy the product is 23 more than its sum. Right? How do you know you are doing right? You can check. If we check this one, check. So product 5 times 7 is what? 35. The sum is what? 5 plus 7 is 12. What's the difference? 23. It's more than that. Then let's take a look at this one. The product is what? 15, right? The sum would be what? -8. So product is 23 more than its sum, their sum, right? Are we okay? That will be on your page 21 and for our section 7.6. Do your homework and practice some more.